Okay, we'll start with this. Well, on Friday, July the 16th, later on this month, America's own Zarina McCoy, unbeaten southpaw, based out of Las Vegas, Nevada, sporting a professional record of 6 wins, no losses, 2 knockouts. One of Ring IQ's 2020 top prospects to watch is going to be returning to action against an opponent that has yet to be announced. She was in action earlier this year in March against Tania Rivera. This will be young Zarina McCoy's second fight in the year of 2021. And at this point in the juncture, given Zarina's age, the fact she's only 20 years old, these are just learning fights, building fights to round her out as a fighter, allow her to develop. Campaigning in the super flyweight division, Zarina McCoy is definitely one to watch out for. She's more finesse than ferocity. You don't see a lot of pure boxers at these weights. You often see a lot of pressure fighters, boxer punchers. Zarina McCoy really stands out.
Very good technician.
Southpaw with a very high ceiling and has her whole career ahead of her. She's going to be in action later on this month. Keep your eyes peeled for that. In super featherweight news, deprived of a fight since December of 2019, Mekhaled, European super featherweight champion, 14 wins, no losses, puts her EBU title at stake in Faizin on July 16th, normally against Rima Ayadi, who sports professional record of 5 wins with no losses and 1 knockout, was in action earlier this year in April, scoring a 5th-round TKO stoppage over Pasa Malajic. Rima, unlike Mekhaled, has no ring rust to shake off. She has fought in the last 12 months. This is going to be Mekhaled's first fight in roughly 18 months. She was last in action in December of 2019 against Poland's own Karina Kopinska, and it's important for Mekhaled to get back out there.
Shake off that ring rust.
News is already broken that the 3rd season of the World Boxing Super Series is set to kick off in the women's super featherweight division, and if Mekhaled, like many other contenders, has any aspirations of joining in the party, she's going to have to shake off the cobwebs first. This fight with her countrywoman, Rima Ayadi, is set to take place this month on the 16th. That's this Friday, coming up towards the end of this week. And I'm going to need to get a closer look at this girl to see just what it is that Mekhaled is going to be dealing with. So keep your eyes peeled for the ring return of both Mekhaled of France and Zarina McCoy of America
Later on this week.
In other news, per tweet from Mike Coppinger and his sources, I'm sure most of you have heard by now of the developing situation involving Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos Jr., Triller, and what could be a flight path to Australia. Triller is planning Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos lightweight title tilt October 17th at Bank West Stadium in Sydney, Australia. Ryan Kavanaugh tells ESPN, but Lopez's manager, David McWater, says he'd vacate the title rather than fight there. Details on the drama. McWater was quoted as saying, if we have to, we'll give up the title and he can fight Isaac Cruz somewhere for $70,000 for the vacant title. One of these guys is the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. The other is a mandatory contender. I don't know when they became equals.
Well, can you sell this fight in America the way they can in Australia?
Can you ensure Ryan Kavanaugh and the people over there at Triller that you can generate the revenue here in the United States that the fight might generate down there in the land down under?
Can you do that?
Because that's what this is all about. What's this? The 2nd, 3rd postponement this fight has seen? The fight was originally moved from June 5th to June 19th to August, then perhaps September. Now it's supposed to go down in October. And you do realize that if the fight goes down in October, it will have been approximately a year's time since the Lopez versus Vasyl Lomachenko fight of last year. Does this fight strike you as the kind of fight that should take a year to make?
Should a fight like this be this time-consuming?
Ryan Kavanaugh was quoted as saying, no matter who is the known fighter, fair is fair. Lopez needs to go to Australia and should be bending over backwards to make this fight for Kambosos, for us, and for all the others who lost out due to their irresponsibility.
He's holding Teofimo Lopez accountable.
He's saying Teofimo's got to make it right. Make it right for George Kambosos Jr., make it right for all of the undercard fighters, and make it right for Triller, who he decided to jump into bed with, so many words he did, when he didn't like the money from Top Rank. But had Top Rank made the fight, as opposed to things happening the way that they did, this fight would have been over the line by now. It would have been over and done with. This is not the kind of fight that should be this time-consuming. But that's what it's been. And what I see here are the consequences of the short game
versus the long one.
You tell yourself that Teofimo Lopez wasn't happy with the money. Top Rank was going to pay him for this fight. The people over there at Top Rank's justification for this was that this is not a major fight. This fight is not a hot ticket. We're about to pour upwards of $1 million down the drain to satisfy Teofimo Lopez's financial demands when they knew that this ain't that kind of fight.
So it ends up going to a purse bid.
Matchroom shows up. They bid about $3 million, or a little over $3 million. Triller bids double that number, thereby winning the purse bid. And now this fight is their problem, not Top Rank's. Now, in the beginning, Teofimo Lopez seemed very happy with how things worked out.
A lot of you out there seemed happy for him.
Very happy. But how many of you very happy individuals out there actually planned on purchasing this pay-per-view? Because that's what it would have been. That's how the people over there at Triller intended to make back the $6 million they put into this pot. How many of you happy guys and happy girls out there were going to pony up the cash to pay to see this fight?
You think this is pay-per-view worthy?
How many of you were going to pay to see it? Because what Bob wanted to do was put it on regular ESPN at no additional charge to me and you, because Bob knows, like I know, like you know, that this is not a big fight.
This ain't a hot ticket.
It would have been fiscally irresponsible to overpay for this fight, knowing full well there's no way to make the money back. And nobody, I mean nobody, is in the business of losing money, and nobody is in the business of giving it away. So Top Rank, they let this thing go to a purse bid, and now it's Triller's baby. It's Triller's problem.
There have been nothing but problems ever since.
How many postponements is that? What, 3, 4? Supposed to go down on June 5th, then June 19th. June 19th turns into August, but Teofimo Lopez contracts COVID-19, so that turns into September, potentially, on the undercard of Oscar De La Hoya's ring return, and September has now turned into October. Get this, in the land down under, George Kambosos' neck of the woods.
So how much easier would it have been to let Top Rank host the thing?
How much easier would it have been to come off of those financial demands and just take what's on the table for this fight now, because it'll set you up for something bigger later. As it stands, if this fight goes down in October, Teofimo Lopez will have lost a year of his time.
Squandered all the momentum from the Lomachenko fight.
Vasyl Lomachenko, who has fought since
October,
the Lopez fight of October last year. He's actually had a fight, but Teofimo hasn't. Vasyl Lomachenko, who didn't have any of the issues traveling abroad for a title defense that Teofimo Lopez is exhibiting here and now. Lest we forget, when Vasyl Lomachenko fought Luke Campbell, that was in Luke Campbell's neck of the woods. It wasn't here in America, and it wasn't over there in the Ukraine.
That was at the O2 Arena in London.
When Teofimo Lopez is involved, there are all these issues, all these headaches. David McWater is turning his nose up at the idea that he should have to travel to make a defense.
So Lomachenko didn't think he was too good to travel.
But apparently David McWater, who manages the career of young Teofimo Lopez, thinks Teofimo is too good for all of that. And if Teofimo does not honor this engagement, he must forfeit the red belt and whatever money he would have made from this fight. I mean, are you seeing how all of this breaks down? You don't travel to Australia. You don't fight this guy. You forfeit the red belt. You forfeit the red belt and whatever money you hoped to make from this fight.
You leave empty-handed.
If you don't fight. That's if you don't fight. If you do fight, you've got to get your passport out. What's that? 14 days in quarantine when you get there? And it's got to be in his neck of the woods. Had Top Rank been in control of the situation, had Top Rank staged the fight, and rest assured it would have happened by now, it would have taken place behind closed doors in the bubble, and it would have been over with.
You didn't like the money.
No, you want to stand on your square. Take a stand, and how is having taken that stand working out for you? Do you think it's a prudent use of time to have spent the last 12 months not fighting?
So now it's either you fight in Australia or you give up the red belt.
That's the story, since Ryan Kavanaugh of Triller is holding Teofimo Lopez directly responsible for the latest delay. Guess he didn't take enough precautions to guard himself from the COVID-19 virus. The way Ryan sees it, he should be bending over backwards to make it right. Make it right for everybody.
A lot of people, they can't see the forest for the trees.
A lot of people were celebrating when Triller put up that $6 million for this fight, And I told you then, like I'm telling you now, those people didn't realize that Triller putting up that amount of money for that fight means that they're going to charge me and you an additional charge just to see it. Do you think that this fight is pay-per-view worthy? And even if you do, look at this latest set of problems.
So was it worth it?
And finally, per tweet from Steve Kim, spoke to Shelley Finkel earlier, said their, Wilder side, isn't very happy about how Fury's camp handled their responsibilities in terms of guarding versus COVID. On a lighter note, he admitted that he got fooled by the fake Benson account where Fury announced his retirement. That's right, folks. Apparently there was a parody Michael Benson account that tweeted Tyson Fury was walking away from the sport of boxing, and they managed to pull a fast one on Shelley. Shelley's an old guy.
He's like 77 years old.
Not that long ago, Bob Arum provided assurance that Fury's people had actually already been vaccinated, fully vaccinated. But the story now is that Fury only got the first vaccine, not the second. Getting the second vaccine, the second dose, whatever it is, provides more assurance that you cannot contract the COVID-19 virus. So in some ways,
It's supposed to provide more resistance.
but you can still contract the virus? I mean, I'm not sure how all of that works. I'm not sure how all of that breaks down. What I am sure of is that the Finkel-Wilder people are holding Tyson Fury and his team responsible for not having had that second dose. They're blaming Tyson Fury for all of this the same way that Ryan Kavanaugh is blaming Teofimo Lopez for their situation, their snafu.
Not surprising.
And I don't know how many of you out there believe the cover story. I don't know how many of you out there actually believe that the real reason this fight was postponed was due to Fury contracting COVID-19, since there's a prevailing theory that the real reason the fight was postponed is that the tickets weren't moving the way that they wanted them to move. There wasn't enough time to fully promote the fight to maximize its earning potential, so they moved it to a later date. There are those people that believe this. In truth,
Crazier things have happened.
Fury's said to be flying back to the United Kingdom, if he's not already there.
With COVID.
Apparently. Listen, the same kind of rumors you heard about Lopez versus Kambosos Jr.'s postponement are the same kind of rumors you're now hearing about this fight's postponement. That it ain't got nothing to do with COVID. That's just a convenient excuse. And the real reason the fight date's being moved to a later date is because tickets ain't selling the way they want them to, and they don't want to lose any money on this thing. They want more time to promote it. It's the same thing.
That's what some people believe.
I don't blame them. To that, Dillian Whyte, who owns the WBC interim title, has called for the WBC to make Tyson Fury a champion in recess and upgrade him to full world champion, quoted as saying, "I'll fight Wilder as world champion. Winner of that fight fights Fury. And winner of that fight fights AJ for undisputed."
Sounds easy enough.
Yeah, if you could actually get Deontay Wilder in the ring with Dillian Whyte. For the longest time, he's had an aversion to that fight for whatever reason, and his pom-pom waving acolytes can
Rush to his defense.
give him a pass for having not fought Dillian Whyte after all this time, after all these years. They can do that.
The rest of us.
The rest of the world is thinking to themselves, myself included, how much easier would things have been for Deontay Wilder had he given Dillian Whyte the opportunity, given Dillian Whyte the shot that he gave Tyson Fury?
2018.
Giving Tyson Fury that shot must be the worst fucking goof we've seen in modern boxing here today. That's if you believe the cover story. That's if you
You
believe,
talk about your cherry picks gone wrong.
if you can all of the conspiracy theories and take all of this at face value. Essentially, you ended up in this situation. You ended up in this predicament because you afforded this guy an opportunity that he didn't deserve. I come back to this every single time.
Because no matter how fucked up this situation gets.
No matter how complex and convoluted it becomes, it all could have been avoided had Deontay Wilder never gave Tyson Fury that shot. Had he given it to Dillian Whyte instead, and maybe he would have knocked out Dillian Whyte, or maybe Dillian Whyte would have knocked him out. Who knows? Wilder made his bed, and now he's got a lie in it.
His fans want me and you to feel sorry for him.
His fans that actually celebrated the undisputed heavyweight title fight's collapse when the arbitrator ruled in Wilder's favor, let us hear. His fans want me and you to believe that he's the victim of a crime, the victim of a travesty. No, what he is a victim of his own undoing. That's if you take all of this at face value. He is a victim of his own decisions, because Fury don't get a shot at the green belt. Wouldn't have got a shot unless you gave him one.
And that's what you did.
So, was it worth it? As far as Dillian Whyte's proposition, that Tyson Fury be relegated to a champion in recess. You and I both know the WBC ain't going to do that. And I understand that it's been a long time since the WBC title in the heavyweight division has been in circulation. I understand that it's been well over a year's time since that title has been defended, since it has been contested for. But God forbid the WBC do something that makes sense, since these days they're in the business of doing things that don't make sense.
They're not going to do that.
If this situation spills over into October and the WBC title at heavyweight is still entangled within it, it will be because the WBC is enabling its entanglement. What Dillian Whyte is proposing is not so drastic that it can't be done. No, it can be done. WBC just doesn't want to do it. WBC wants to keep letting Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder play Salucci with their belt in the heavyweight division. They don't seem to want to let anybody else fight for it.
You can fucking forget about them relegating Fury to a champion in recess.
It'll never happen. Why Dillian Whyte keeps wasting time with these people for this green belt is beyond me, when he's lost enough time to see that they're not going to give him that shot. They're not going to give him that opportunity, not willingly. And the WBC themselves, they're not aiding him in his plight either. So what's the point?
You wasted enough time on these guys?
I'm telling you right now, it's entirely possible that Dillian Whyte could go his entire career having never gotten a shot at that green belt, having never been afforded that opportunity by the people entrusted to afford fighters that opportunity. Talking about the WBC themselves.